Many of you already know so much more about GennaRose than I can possibly tell you. You've had poems composed by her on her antique typewriter on Brattleboro sidewalks, and you have read her poetry collection, The Lumberjack's Dove, which was selected by none other than Louise Gluck, as the winner of the National Poetry Series. Her recent projects include the narrative song collection, Modern Ballads, and Liana Fled the Cranberry Bog, which is a story in cootie catchers, which I'm dying to see. You may have heard her on NPR, and that is NPR, not VPR, which we also love. And her novel, Thistlefoot, is just a tour de force that is sweeping the country. I am the envy of all my librarian colleagues across the country who say, how do you have her at your library? And rightfully so. I have just lost count of all the accolades of that Thistlefoot, her novel, has received. From a Book of the Month Club selection to one of the top 10 audiobooks of the year by Library Journal, and recently another book by the Jewish Literature Association, I believe. So anyway, now that everybody's in here and settled down, let's have a big hand for GennaRose Nethercott.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm so glad to be home. I just spent the last month touring out west. Before that, I was flying basically twice a week for 9 weeks straight. So I feel insane, and I'm really glad to be sharing that all with you today. But yeah, I'm really so glad to have landed back in Brattleboro, which is very much my town. Not yours. Brattleboro is very dear to my heart, and there's like truly nothing like doing a hometown show when I've been out on the road a lot, and yeah, I have to show you guys the cutest thing. Okay, when I got here, well, for one, has everyone seen Sarah the librarian's Thistlefoot costume?
Yes.
Where is she? It's amazing. We'll have to bring her out here at some point. But, well, she's left. It's very cute. So for one of the librarians dressed up as the house on chicken legs. Two, they handed me this flyer. It's a photo of a woman holding the book, and underneath it says, Pat Ireton, your 4th grade teacher, loved this book. Which I guess she printed out and dropped off at the library because she couldn't make it. Which is just the cutest thing I've seen in my entire life. So, yay, Brattleboro. Oh yeah, I think Sarah's made it down. Where did she go? Come here. We have to show you off to the people. And it's given time for others to filter in. But yeah, so as she's making her way up, I'm GennaRose Nethercott, as has been established, and I wrote this book, Thistlefoot. I don't match it on purpose. This is just how I live my life. But I'm really excited about this book because it's my debut novel. As was referenced, I've done a lot of work in poetry prior to this, but this is the first time I've written something with so many damn words in it. And so I'm really proud of it. Look at her! Oh my God! So, okay, so this is a perfect opportunity to say that Thistlefoot is a book about a house on chicken legs. Thank you, everyone give Sarah. All right, first, how many of you have read the book already?
Read it.
Wow, okay. Nice. Yes, Dad, I know you have read it. So, for those who haven't read it, or those who just blacked out the entire time they were reading it and need a refresher, Thistlefoot is the story of Isaac and Bellatine Yaga. They are two Jewish-American siblings who've been estranged for most of their adult life. They're in their mid-20s right now. They've been estranged since they were in their mid-teens. Isaac is a street performer and an actor and a little bit of a con man. And his sister Bellatine is a woodworker. She's very practical. And the two of them really could not be more different. And so just do not get on. But one day, they learn that they are going to receive a mysterious inheritance. And all that they know about this inheritance is that it has come to the United States from what is now Ukraine, what was at the time that their family lived there, Russia, and it had belonged to a twice great grandmother of theirs that they had never met. And curiosity gets the best of them, so they agree to meet and figure out what is inside this box. Now, they're amazed to discover this inheritance isn't money, it isn't a regular heirloom, it is in fact a house lofted up on a pair of chicken legs. Yeah, normal stuff. And you know, as is the case with any inheritance, any story with like a mysterious inheritance, nothing goes weird after that, and then the story ends. Thank you. I do that joke every time, and everyone kind of hates it every time, and I just won't let it go. So I appreciate your solidarity in that. No, the story continues. Isaac and Bellatine decide to take the show on the road, literally. They convert the house into a mobile theater. The two of them grew up in a puppeteering family, and they decide to go on the road with a traveling puppet show to make a quick buck, which, yeah, I know. This is a fantasy novel, but I do think the least realistic thing in it is that they're like, I know a quick money-making scheme, let's get rich on puppets. So, you know, it's magical realism. You have to suspend your disbelief. And, yeah, so that's kind of the background you need to know going in. But the house Thistlefoot, I think, can do a better job of introducing itself than I ever could. And so, without further ado, I think I'm going to let it do just that. Would you all like to experience some puppets? Yes! It is worth saying before I jump in, I had some incredible puppetry collaborators on this project who I will tell you all about a little later. I just don't want you to think that I made this, because if I was making this and writing this book, I would have too many skills and should be shot. That's just too many things for one person to know how to do. So I'm telling you that out of self-protection, so I don't get attacked. I'm in a real cheeky mood tonight, everyone. Welcome home to me. All right. Before I was a house, I was a baby chick, cracked loose from an egg. It may be difficult to imagine a strong-walled, thick-roofed structure like me as a hatchling, but it's true. Well, that's how the story goes anyway. So that is how I'll tell it. A hen sat on her roost in the dimming light. This hen had no name, no lineage to speak of, no story of her own, save for this story I am telling you now. The farm where she lived was in a Russian shtetl called GennaRose in what is now Ukraine. It was near spring. The hen heard a goat bray on the edge of the farmland. She shook rain from her feathers. As she sunk into the haze sweet musk, a song came to her, though she, being a hen, did not know what a song was. Lie, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die, die, die. Lie, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die. The hen felt a laying coming on, so she bedded down deep in the hay, and she let an egg loose into the world. Thus, I began. Crack! And what a beginning! Can you imagine what the hen must have thought when she saw me? First, my tiny golden feet cracking through the shell, all as it should be. But then, the rest of me, chimney and gate, small wooden doors, windows, blue with glass. The hen, my mother, she spooked too easily. She looked at me, and she didn't see a bird at all. Ran squawking from the nest, they say. So frightened, she ran right out into the night and straight into the town butcher, Red Liser's knife. Don't pity me for losing my mother. I'm not sentimental. She wasn't my real mother. My heart mother, anyway. She was only an ordinary bite of poultry. This is one story of my origin, but it is not the only one. People talk. How they talk. What I can tell you for certain is that I was born already running. I do not intend to stop. The hen was right, of course, to doubt my legitimacy as her child. I've never been a very good bird. I am, however, an exemplary house. I differ from regular houses in two primary ways. One, I do not have a foundation. Instead of a foundation, I have two chicken legs, strong and restless as a slingshot. Two, I do not reside at a single static location. I loathe sitting still. If you try to make me sit still, I'll kill you. I'm going to tell you what came before. I'll recite it like a folktale. A memory. A true memory is too harsh, full of sharp edges. Things happen that we cannot speak about aloud. Rememberings are prickly, like blackberry briar in winter with no leaves to soften them. But the worst thing about memory, the deadliest, most brutal part, memory can be forgotten. But a folktale can never be forgotten because it wriggles and rearranges until it sits neatly on the heart. It adapts in the mouth of every teller, and it shifts to fit the shape of each listener's ear. And so, the folktale survives, assimilates, and with it, so survives the past. Lie, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die, die, this walk-in house on the road. And, oh, my lord, again. How many of you are familiar with the folk tales of Baba Yaga? A good slew. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the folk tales of Baba Yaga, who blacked out through the entire time the tales were told, Baba Yaga is a figure from Eastern European Slavic folklore, a sort of witch crone character, who I love because of her volatility. She's known as either like giving you a candle that will solve all your problems, or maybe she'll eat your baby. Just depends on her mood that day, which, you know, what's not to love? And she infamously, in these old stories, lives in a house on chicken legs. So, turns out, Isaac and Bellatine's twice great-grandmother is Baba Yaga. Yeah, ooh, surprise. And throughout the book, most of the story follows Isaac and Bellatine on their journey, and parts, every once in a while, dip into the past and follow Baba Yaga, who was in this version of the story. Well, she's a little different than the original Baba Yaga in folklore. The kind of most succinct way I have to describe it is I stole her for the Jews. So she's Jewish now. She's not in the original stories, but my Baba Yaga is a young Jewish mother living in a small shtetl, or a Jewish village, in the months leading up to a pogrom, which were massacres perpetrated by the Russian government against the Jewish people right around sort of the era of World War I-ish and beyond. So fun. And yeah, so I have translated a couple, I have 3 more, translated some of those folk tales, basically following Baba Yaga in this shtetl into this puppet show here. In the book, they are told in the voice of Thistlefoot itself, as you have just met, and so too will be the case this evening. So would anyone like to see, or hear and see a folktale? Yes. Great! I got one right here. All right. This, well, I won't give you any intro, we'll just go right in. Have you heard the story of Baba Yaga and her 2 daughters? No? Well, she made them out of teeth. Listen. In the shtetl Gerenkrovka lived a woman named Baba Yaga, and she resided in a house on chicken legs. All autumn, Baba Yaga watched the Goyisha neighbor girls playing in the creek bed. She studies the way that they hold an earthworm between thumb and forefinger, gently so as not to crush it. She studies the odd proportions of a girl, the way a girl's hair darkens when wet with stream water, the bright hunger in a girl's eyes. She takes careful notes in a cat-skin notebook. She cultivates a yearning that roots in her own body, sturdy as an apple tree. This yearning, it is so sticky and thick, it replaces the crone's need for water, for food. She teases out this loneliness, and she stirs it up in a wooden bowl with flour and honey and butter. She rolls out the dough. This dough she curls into little twists. And she bakes those twists into rugelach. morning, Baba Yaga approaches the neighbor girls playing in the creek, and she offers them the pastries that she made. The girls accept eagerly, but when they bite into the treats, the loneliness is so sticky that their teeth catch in the syrup and will not come free. They gnaw, and they tug, and they grind their jaws, but nothing will loosen them. Then, Baba Yaga reaches forward, takes hold of the rugalach lodged in each girl's mouth, and yanks, pop! Out come 2 teeth, one from each of the 2 young girls. Baba Yaga scurries home as quickly as she can. She wraps each tooth in wool. Into each bundle, she places a sprig of rosemary, a copper kopeck, and a droplet of blood pricked from her own finger. When night falls, she holds a bundle to each breast, and she nurses them. By morning, Baba Yaga has 2 young daughters. Her eldest daughter, Ela, is very smart and very cruel, and Baba Yaga loves her more than life. Her youngest, Malka, is only an infant, and she weeps all day and all night, and Baba Yaga loves her more than the moon, more than death, more than she could ever speak aloud in mortal words. One evening, a soothsayer comes to my door, and he tells Baba Yaga that one of her daughters will not live to see womanhood. And so, Baba Yaga slits the soothsayer's throat. And she cooks him in a big iron pot on the wood-burning stove. And that night, Baba Yaga and her daughters have a feast. The crone and her children nestle together, wrapping themselves in sheepskins, and they sleep. For a while, they are happy. So before this next piece, I would love to tell you a bit about my collaborators. All hometown heroes. Woo! Yeah, absolutely. So while Thistlefoot itself was published by Penguin, all my people are in New York City. Everybody I collaborated with for this show are all local to this area here. I wouldn't rather collaborate with anyone else. I always find the most amazing, talented, brilliant, kind people right here. So yeah, I'd love to tell you a little bit about who worked on this with me. First off, the box that you see before you, this is called a cranky. We're in Brattleboro, like people have seen crankies before, for the most part, which is not the case in most places. But for those who haven't, it's called a cranky because these cranks I bet you figured that out on your own. And this particular cranky, the structure of it was built by a retired cabinet maker named Gilbert Ruff, who lives off the grid in the old Packers Corner commune area in Guilford. And he is lovely and also loves telling tales while building things. So this is my have you ever read Rime of the Ancient Mariner, where there's this mariner, he has to go around and tell his sordid tale to people at weddings? This fact is my version of that, where Gilbert, when he was working on this, decided he was going to recite to me Casanova's entire autobiography, in which the process of which I learned one of my new favorite, most deranged facts. And I'm going to share that with you tonight, because you're my captive audience, and I can do that. So, okay, Casanova, in addition to being a prolific and renowned lover, was also very famous during his lifetime for being the only person that ever escaped from Venice's renowned prison, the Leads. And he did this in this totally absurd, heisty sort of way. A big part of this escape involved him having to smuggle a chisel to a fellow prisoner in a different cell. Now, originally he was passing books back and forth with this prisoner. It was maybe I can hide it in this book and, get it that way. But he was no, this chisel knife thing is too long, can't put it in a book. Apparently the whole plan was this guy was gonna put a hole in the wall and literally put a poster over it, that old gag. I guess it wasn't a cliche yet, because that was literally their plan. And Casanova has this brilliant idea. He's I know how I'm gonna get the chisel to my guy. I'm gonna make a big pot of spaghetti. This is the most Italian escape plan ever. He's I'm gonna make a big pot of spaghetti, and I'm gonna put way too much butter in there, and then I'm gonna ask one of the guards to deliver it to this other cell. It was a bougie prison, and you could do shit like that. So he goes, I'm gonna have him deliver this to the other cell. I'm not even gonna hide the chisel in the spaghetti. I'm just gonna set the spaghetti on top of the chisel. And this guard, he's gonna be so busy trying not to spill the buttery spaghetti that it's all gonna go off without a hitch, and he won't even notice the chisel that is visibly sticking out from under this bowl. And so he did that, and it worked, and he escaped from the prison. So yeah, so thank you Gilbert Ruff for that fact and for this beautiful cranky. Additionally, I worked with Maria Pugnetti, who many of you probably know her work. Yeah, she's amazing. She did the decoration on the box, as well as created the incredible shadow scrolls that you're seeing within this cranky box. Amazing. And then my final collaborator was Shoshana Bass of Sandglass Theater. Totally amazing. She both built the handheld puppets that you've already seen and will see in these next couple of pieces, and she also directed the production. I also want to give a shout out to Eric Bass, who the puppets featured in the book are inspired by his Autumn Portraits series, and he's here tonight, so thanks, Eric. That's called plagiarism. No, if you ever get a chance to see Shoshana's version of the Autumn Portraits pieces, When I Put on Your Glove, that's an amazing, amazing production that I highly recommend. So, those are my people. They're brilliant. Go see everything they do. Definitely go see shows at Sandglass. And without further ado, I'm going to do 2 more pieces for you now. This next one I do want to preface by saying there is some violent imagery in this next piece. I know you're oh no, puppet violence. But the pogroms were no joke. So just to be aware of that going in and take care of yourselves.
In April, a boy delivering newspapers discovers hidden weaponry and communist pamphlets in Heim, the stonecutter's studio. In May, pogromщики hang Heim from the tree behind his workshop. It is an old apple tree, and it has not borne fruit for many years. Today is different.
When the soldiers leave, Haim's sister tries to cut him down, but the rope won't sever. With each drag of a blade, the rope hardens, first into leather, then into steel cable, then into a gleaming diamond chain that snaps every blade from its handle. There can be no mourner's Kaddish, no burial. After 7 chivalrous days and 7 chivalrous nights, only a skeleton remains. Everyone avoids Haim the Stonecutter's studio after that, and the terrible tree, and the terrible rope, and the terrible shape dangling from it. Everyone, that is, except for Baba Yaga.
Good morning, Reb Skeleton.
Good morning, Baba Yaga. Sometimes Baba Yaga's daughters, Ela and Malka, accompany her on her visits. Ela likes to place hollyhock between the skeleton's toes. One morning, Reb Skeleton asks Baba Yaga for a favor. Baba Yaga! I have been hanging in this tree for 60 days and nights, and I have grown tired of the view. My neck, it is sore at this angle, and I wish to see the world. Won't you be so kind as to cut me down?
But, Reb Skeleton, everyone knows that you hang on an unbreakable rope. Why would you ask me such a thing?
Feh! Are your daughters not born from teeth? Does your house not walk on chicken's legs? If anyone can break the unbreakable rope, it is you. Plus, if you agree to free me, I will do any 3 tasks you ask of me. I swear it. Now this, Baba Yaga likes the sound of very much.
Very well, I will cut you down. But let me tell you your first task. It is my daughter's birthday soon. You will build a mural for them over the front door of our home, honoring my littlest daughter, who is small as a hare, my eldest daughter, who is cruel as a crow, and myself. Do you agree to this? Or shall I leave you here so the birds may build nests in your ribs?
Reb Skeleton agrees. So that night, Baba Yaga returns with a long pair of scissors. The blades are glossy as snow. The grips encircled with barbed wire, so no one but Baba Yaga can bear to hold them. Snip! She cuts Reb Skeleton free from the noose. Easy as that. By morning, a beautiful mural hovers over my front door. The following day, Baba Yaga finds Reb Skeleton again.
Reb Skeleton, death Looks well on you, I see. But you are not free yet. You still have 2 tasks you must do for me.
I remember, Baba Yaga. What will you have me do tonight?
My eldest, Ela, has begun playing a game called the Orchard, in which she is dangling from an apple tree, and the apples are sweet and ripe, and she is hungry, but she cannot eat them, for she is dead. Neither of my daughters have slept the night through since the pogromshiki strung you up. You will make a new mural for them, one upon the ceiling to help them sleep, in which the soldiers are ruined, and my daughters are happy.
Very well, but you may tell your daughters that when you are dead, you do not want apples, nor matzah, nor honey. You only want to be less dead.
Still, by morning, a beautiful, terrible mural extends across my ceiling. Lie, die, 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 da, die, die, da, die, die, die. Die, 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 da, die. Die, da, die, die, die. Die, da, die, 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 da,
Baba Yaga! Tonight, I will do my final task and then I will be free. Tell me, what can I do for you tonight?
Tonight, Baba Yaga hands Reb Skeleton the scissors she had used to cut him down. Tonight, you will slit the throat of every soldier in the White Army, and every Cossack, and every pogromshiki peasant who would take up a torch. And when that is done, you will return home, and you will kill each of the men who killed you.
But, Baba Yaga, this will take a century. How am I to know freedom?
Good Higher, bringer of death, you are freedom.
piece for you all tonight. Are we up for one more? Well, I want to extend a huge thank you to the Brooks Memorial Library for bringing me out here tonight. I'm so glad to be able to bring this show back every time I do. This is the third time I've done it in Brattleboro, and every time it's just a blast. So, yeah, and thank you all so much for spending a chilly winter's night with me here. Yeah, and as mentioned, so after this final piece, I'm going to do a brief Q&A, and then I will be signing books. If you want, you can buy one with your human money, and then I'll write in it for you. I'll even draw a little picture of a house. It's a whole thing. Before I went on tour, I practiced all my little house drawings to be like, what's the right one? And I figured out the right one. God damn it, so. All right. Ready for one more piece?
Yeah.
This is the latest one added to the brood, and I didn't even mean that for it to be a pun. I'm so sorry. Genuinely no pun intended. But I'm probably gonna use that again now that I know about it. So yeah, this piece is fun for me because I've only actually performed it a few times. It's one that my suitcase that I fly with is exactly 50 pounds and exactly 62 composite inches. It's a real engineering feat. Those are the limits for flights. So I can't actually put this extra scroll in for gigs I fly to because it makes it too heavy. So you get the special treat of my house being down the road. I did not have to fly here. Do not be a fool. There exists no such thing as a ghost of the dead. Oh wait, I don't have the main prop piece I need to do this bit. Oh my God. Wow, I didn't even bring, I'm gonna you guys have been promised a piece, so I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do it with my human body, you'll see. The prop piece will be replaced by me, Jenna. All right. The show must go on. All right. There exists no such thing as a ghost of the dead. But little house, you say. What of a grot but Maha dancing on rooftops? What of Mazakim causing rifles to misfire? What of Aluka taking her daily blood meal at horses' throats? Are they not real? To this, I say, you do not listen. These are demons, not ghosts. Demons, well, do walk among us, that much is certain. But a ghost of the dead, you may look out my windows as long as you like, you will not see one. But little house, you say. What of the Dibicum who cling to our backs, who make us ride with migraine and convulse with seizures? Are they not real? And to this, I say, your questions give me headaches. Does that make you a Dybbuk? And I do not even have a head. But little house, you say. What is a memory, if not a ghost? One morning, Baba Yaga awakens to find the town empty. When she goes to the grocer, there is no one to sell her peas and pickling jars. When she goes to the milliner, the hats are gossiping among themselves, alone. When she goes to the butcher, the floors are too clean. No blood at all. Finally, as Baba Yaga makes her way toward the synagogue, she spots a lone, lingering man. Good afternoon, stranger. Can you tell me where everyone has gone?
I hope it is not some high holiday and I have forgotten to go to shul. Why, yes, says the man. Today is holiday. Today is the first day of the end. Baba Yaga has no time for riddles and no time for strange men, so she continues on her way. Wait, he says. Let me accompany you to the synagogue. I am perfectly happy to walk myself. Sister, please, what sort of neighbor would I be if I did not at least offer to open the door for you? And with that, the man lifts his arm. It begins to stretch across the square twice, then thrice, then 4, 5 times too long. At last, it arrives upon the synagogue door with a tap, tap, tap. By now, Baba Yaga knows she is not speaking to a man at all. Oops. On second thought, I'll visit the rabbi tomorrow. But then, Baba Yaga notices the man's other arm. It, too, has begun to stretch, vanishing in the very direction from which Baba Yaga had come, toward home, toward me. We'll put on a glove. That'll do it. What fine daughters you have. Such soft hair. Baba Yaga begins to run. To dash off, don't feel bad. My least favorite thing is when I get trapped in a Q&A I don't want to be a part of. So I won't be offended if you feel the need to get up. For those of you who would like to stay though, I would love to answer some questions if you have any, either about the book or the show or literally any prying personal questions you have about me and my life. Yeah, I'm here for the hot goss. So.
Yeah. And we have a microphone.
Oh, and we have a microphone. That's so fancy. Yeah, right there.
So, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I met you at another event at the library that was not related to your book, but I came up to you and was like, oh my
yes.
word, I'm totally a fangirl right now. I love your book. And you had told me the story about Winifred.
Yes.
And the inspiration for Winifred, so I thought maybe you could share that with
Oh, that's a great
with the
idea.
room.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Outside of Candyland.
Yes, exactly.
So, this is a great story that I think this hometown crowd will appreciate. Sorry if you've heard it before, because I tell it obsessively, because it's the most insane story I have from this entire writing process. So, you know Prospect Hill Cemetery up on South Main Street? Anyone know that spot? Yeah. Yeah, so it's a beautiful cemetery, and there's a character in Thistlefoot. Ooh, great, I can see you all. Beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, there's a character in Thistlefoot that is based on a gravestone in Prospect Hill Cemetery. Yeah, so this character Winifred in the book is sort of my take on a golem character. She is a carved stone that becomes a living girl, and she is an actual carved life-size girl that exists in the Prospect Hill Cemetery. Right, all the way on like the right-hand side, if you're on the road facing the cemetery, she's on the corner of the front, and she's beautiful. So I had a really hard time characterizing this character, because in certain ways she's this newborn baby that's just woken up. In certain ways she is a Victorian teenager, which Winifred Hadley, who she is carved in the image of, is a Victorian teenager. And in certain ways she's like an ancient part of the earth, right? So I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to write a character that is those three things and make them a person we can relate to? So I was stumped, and I decided to go for a walk and clear my head. This was deep in lockdown at this point, where I had very much spent more time with like these people I made up than any real actual people, which certainly has not had a lasting impact on my whole vibe as a person. We can all relate. So anyway, I go for a walk to the cemetery, and I'm like, I'll go visit Winifred's grave and see if it just kind of jogs anything loose. And night had just fallen. I'm walking through the dark, and when I get to the stone, sometimes people leave flowers in her hands and stuff, and no one had left flowers that day, but I could tell she was holding something. In the book, her arms are outstretched for plot reasons, but in real life, Winifred's hands are clasped in her lap. And so I could see she was holding something clasped in her lap. And so I scramble up on her pedestal, and I like climb up to see what's in her hands, and I immediately lose my mind. For those of you who have read the book, you will immediately understand why. The thing she is holding is a train-flattened nickel. That is exactly my reaction. So, for those of you who haven't read the book, a train-flattened nickel is the calling card of one of the protagonists. It's a sign that he has been there. Is he leaves a train-flattened nickel in his place. So immediately, I'm like, is he here? Like, did I make a man with my mind? And so I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm like absolutely bonkers at this point. And you know, I'm deep enough in lockdown that I'm like, it's possible, you know? Like, hell, it's possible. And the whole rest of my walk, I'm like, I'm gonna run into him. I'm gonna run into him at any moment. But what I realized is the thing about this character is he's this shapeshifter. He takes on other forms. So even if I did run into him, like I would never know. He would never let me know. So yeah, that's my Winifred story. And I still don't understand how that happened. Yeah. Yeah, do we have the microphone for up front here?
Yeah.
Thank you, Star.
Sure.
Isn't this dress stunning?
Right? And likewise. We'll always go everywhere together.
Yeah, right here in the front. Yes.
I have a question about the book.
It's on, yeah. About the book? Yeah.
What happens after, what happens?
Don't give any spoilers for those who haven't read it yet. Say it.
I
Oh, you haven't read it. Okay.
don't have the book.
Sure.
But I'm hoping to get it today.
Okay.
And, I have a question about the end. What
Go on.
what happens after they run into the house?
Oh, so after Isaac and Bellatine run into the house, they take it on the road and they go on a big cross-country American adventure, and that's how most of the story takes place. Is this big adventure all across America?
And they come to Brattleboro.
They do come to Brattleboro. That's
And
true.
Brattleboro is in the book many times.
Yes.
I also, is Winifred real?
Yeah. Winifred is real. She was a real girl who was 17 years old in the 1800s. She died of what's called typhoid fever, which is a bad sickness they had back then. And she didn't live in Brattleboro, she lived in Boston, but her grandfather lived here in Brattleboro, and she would come to visit him during the summers, and she was so beloved here that they buried her here in Brattleboro among her friends. And she was so popular that on the day of her funeral, the streets were lined with flowers. Wow. Yeah. One more, and then we gotta pass the mic. Yeah.
I forgot her name, but is the witch in that story real?
Baba Yaga? Well, that I can't say, but people have been telling stories about Baba Yaga for many hundreds and hundreds of years, so it's possible. All right, who else has, in the back there? Yeah.
You described the story as taking the show on the road by the two characters.
Right.
So tell us, is that what's happened to you with this book?
It's a bit of a, chicken and the egg situation. Thank you. So
You see the setup there. You've written this book. You've
Yeah.
made this creation. Perhaps it's, what do you call it, an inheritance, these stories.
Sure,
And
yeah.
now you're going to take the show on the road.
Right. Well, so for one, I was raised on the road. My dad, a clown. My mother, a therapist. Me here today to tell the tale. That's real. So I was raised as a professional touring child clown with my dad, Michael, over there. His fault that I'm like this. And so me and my brother and my dad were touring all over the place as like basically my summer job when I was a kid. So that's how I grew up. And then when I came up with the idea for the novel Thistlefoot, I was already on the road, on tour with a cranky show, with cranky scrolls by the same artist who made these cranky scrolls, Maria Pagnetti. Woolly Mar is her artist moniker. Also great DJ. She DJs the queer dance parties at the Stone Church. Just like multi-talented individual. So basically, it kind of started as an aspirational tale because I had converted the trunk of my Honda Fit into a little camper. I was on the road for 8 months solid in a new city every 2 days with a 60-foot-long scrolling shadow show in the back of my trunk. And the thought of like a house that can come with you on the road was like so dreamy. So I was just thinking obsessively about Baba Yaga's hut. And that's why I started writing that particular story. Also, it's very tied into my own family lineage on my mom's side, who's also here. Hello. So the history in the book, the story of Getting Krovka, is inspired and very much the literal story of a real shtetl called Rochnestrivka that my mother's side of the family hails from. So there's a lot of real life story and memory and history that makes it into the book, which is kind of the whole point of the book, really, is I'm very fascinated with the way that real human events and experiences end up translated into these sort of fairy tale forms in order to at times make them more palatable or relatable or entertaining or manipulated in some way for good or for ill. Yeah. Hi.
The mic. I like that.
I'm curious. You've been on the road with this for a while, and is this the first time taking one of your tales on the road as opposed to being part of a show where you're telling someone else's tale? First part of the question. Second part of the question, can you tell a couple of favorite moments that you've had being on the road?
Yeah. So to answer the first part of the question, this is not the first time I've been on the road with my own piece. The what I was previously referencing that I was on the road for 8 months with, I was touring solo for that, and that was for my first book, The Lumberjack's Dove, which is a book-length poem in the form of a folktale. I just kind of do the same thing over and over again. So I have a dark, secret, sordid past in slam poetry, which we don't need to get into that here today. So I'm used to performing things that I've written. But this is my first novel, so it's definitely my first experience performing fiction instead of poetry. The second part is, what are some cool moments on the road? I feel like I've had a lot of interesting synchronistic experiences while traveling, which is always one of my favorite things. It's honestly, it's all a blur. I truly feel deranged right now. But where have I even gone? That's not this tour.
Well, that's true.
That's a tour for another story, another time. Nutcrackers, that's all you get to hear about that. I might have to come back to that one because I just, my brain's just jello right now. Thanks. Maybe one or two last questions and then we'll switch to signing. Yeah.
Since you're, thank you. Since you're a seasoned performer, I wonder, did you read your own audiobook for Thistlefoot?
Great question. I did not read it, which everyone's first disappointed by, but here's the thing. My favorite audiobook reader of all time read my audiobook. Yeah. In fact, I found out about this audiobook reader because the children's librarian upstairs here recommended her to me. Yeah, so go Brooks Memorial Library. So her name is January Lavoie. She's she's amazing. She's the best.
I'm obsessed with her.
What?
I'm obsessed with
Yeah, me too. She's truly amazing. And she's been my favorite audiobook reader for a long time. She does an amazing job with one of my favorite YA series, The Diviners, which if you've read that, you can tell that a lot of it is in...
my favorite YA series too.
Well, it's a lot in Thistlefoot. So I specially requested her and she read it. And I believe she told her producer after that she thinks Thistlefoot is her best work, which is awesome. Yeah, she rocked it. So I highly, highly recommend the audiobook if you're an audiobook person. Yeah.
You used the word magical realism earlier to describe your book. Is that how you think of this story, or how much time do you spend thinking about sort of what genre your story is and how much that matters and who your audience is and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I very much think of it as magical realism. Not really because of thinking about who the audience would be as much as thinking about what the lineage that it's inserting itself into is. So like the works that I want to be in conversation with are in the realm of magical realism. And I feel very strongly about magical realism because it has very different rules to me than fantasy, where fantasy is about magic systems in a way, where magic functions almost the way science functions in our world. Where in magical realism, one of the things I love about magical realism is that it, to me, is just a turning up of the volume on the world we live in. Yeah. So it's not about a system, it's about dismantling systems. Magical realism is actually specifically a genre developed by Latin American writers and Jewish writers to use magical metaphors to discuss systems of oppression. Yeah. So it's a very niche specific genre. And for me, the only way that this book kind of fits into my mind is it's our world with the volume turned up. So the only difference between our world and Thistlefoot's world is that in Thistlefoot's world, anytime something deeply, deeply traumatic happens, it can physically impact the world where it happened and the bodies upon which it happened, which to me feels more real than realism, right? I struggle with realism personally, because in realism you have this internal experience of what it feels like to be a person, and then you have this external world that is not sympathetic to it and does not change to reflect it. Where in magical realism, if a character, for example, has their heart broken, their body can shatter into pieces of glass, right? So it's actually mending this dissonance between the reality externally and the reality internally so that for the characters they can match. So that's sort of, yeah. Thank you all so much.
And I did want to say, you can download the audiobook from the Brooks Memorial website.
Yeah. Libby,
so yeah. And we also do have a copy that you could check out of GennaRose's collection of poetry as well. So, oh, can you take a picture? Absolutely. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. And that was a wonderful message. Thank you all for coming out. I hope especially if you're visiting Remember
myself, you know?
That last answer. I know, you're amazing. How do you have time to eat or sleep or do anything?
Just really. Just like you. I feel like you are. I feel like you can relate.
You're in a different realm.
All we do is work.
How much is the book?
Before
It's gonna go into my dreams.
20, hopefully not the lynching parts, but the other. And then there's tax. With the tax, it comes out to this.
I'm gonna buy a copy.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good. Yeah, a million people. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Is this who you're... No, that's this one's for Nancy. Ready? Oh wait, I just signed my name. I got some swords with the house. Okay, do you want big house? So I love that. I've never signed a book to a house before.
Yeah, that works too.
Okay, so you got one? You got one? Here. Put this in.
Not gonna get in line to get it signed.
That's right, you do.
I'm so glad you clarified that you appropriated Baba Yaga from the Jews. I thought I was crazy. I was like, Jewish?
No, baby.
I also started a pandemic novel, so and also in a similar sort of magical realism theme.
Cool. That's amazing. What's it called?
So far, it's called The History Keeper. That could change. It's about a family of Jewish immigrants to the United States, a mother, a daughter, and a granddaughter. And, you know, there are psychics and there are fairies and this kind of stuff. But
This book, I think, is going to be good.
I'm halfway through, yeah.
Let me see where you're at. Oh, you're in the
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Things are about to start happening. That's okay.
Dina, D-E-N-A. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ooh, you gotta book them.
And so this is my partner. We're a two-copy household.
That's awesome. I just messaged a book of the month and it was like, hey, so I was thinking of signing up for a subscription, but like, do I get anything communities? And they were like, oh, we'll just give you one. So if you ever want inspiration as to like how it pays to be shameless, that's easy your inspiration. What's your name?
Chris, K-R-I-S.